Hello everyone. We will put light upon Gestalt approach of counseling. Content of this video includes introduction, principles, goals, functions, techniques, merits, demerits, applications, limitation, and conclusion of Gestalt approach. German word Gestalt has no perfect English translation, but a close approximation is whole or complete. It is an idea that views every individual as a blend of the mind, emotions, body, and soul with unique experiences and realities. It is an amalgamation of different theories and techniques compiled and refined over the years by many people, most notably their profounder Fritz Perls and his wife Laura Perls in late 1940s, on the principle that humans are best viewed as a whole entity consisting of body, mind, and soul, and best understood when viewed through their own eyes, not by looking back into the past but by focusing on the present. According to Fritz Perls, I do my thing and you do your thing. I am not in this world to live up to your expectations, and you are not in this world to live up to mine. You are you, and I am I. And if by chance we find each other, it's beautiful. If not, it cannot be helped. Need of Gestalt counseling. In practice, psychology counselors apply this counseling by helping people concentrate on what's happening in their lives at the present moment rather than focus on their past experiences. Gestalt counselors use a relational here and now framework, meaning that they prioritize the current interactions with the client over history and past experience. Gestalt counseling borrows heavily from psychoanalysis, Gestalt psychology, existential philosophy, Zen, Buddhism, Taoism, and more. It is an amalgamation of different theoretical ideas packaged for delivery to patients using the traditional psychoanalytic therapy situation, and also includes elements from psychology such as psychodrama and role playing. Gestalt's view of human nature. The Gestalt view of human nature is rooted in existential philosophy, phenomenology, and field theory. Genuine knowledge is the product of what is immediately evident in the experience of the perceiver. The quality of contact with aspects of the external world, for example, other people, and the internal world, for example, parts of the self that are disowned, are monitored. The process of reowning parts of oneself that have been disowned and the unification process proceeds step by step until clients can carry on with their own personal growth. By becoming aware, clients become able to make informed choices and thus to live a more meaningful existence. Gestalt counseling is anti-deterministic and believes people seek to be whole and productive. With the gain of self-actualization, clients then become responsible and self-regulate, and each person is able to change and can take its own responsibility. Fritz's good friend and psychiatrist colleague Ernie Baser suggested that authentic change occurs more from being who we are than from trying to be who we are not. Baser called this simple tenet the paradoxical theory of change. It is important for clients to be as fully as possible in their current condition rather than striving to become what they should be.
Now, moving to the principles of Gestalt approach. The first principle is holism. Gestalt is a German word, means a form that cannot be separated into parts without losing its essence. Gestalt counselors are interested in the whole person. Gestalt practice attends to a client's thoughts, feelings, behaviors, body, memories, and dreams. The second principle is field theory. Gestalt counseling rests on the principle that everything is relational, in flux, interrelated, and in process. The counselors pay attention to and explore what is occurring at the boundary between the person and the environment. The next principle is the figure formation process, which describes how the individual organizes experience from moment to moment. This principle tracks how some aspects of the environmental field emerge from background and becomes the focal point of the individual's attention and interest. The another principle of Gestalt approach is organismic self-regulation. The figure formation process is intertwined with principle of organismic self-regulation, a process by which equilibrium is disturbed by the emergence of a need, a sensation, or an interest. Gestalt counselors direct the client's awareness to the figure that emerges from the background during a counseling session and use the figure formation process as a guide for the focus of counseling work. The next principle is the now. Gestalt counseling embraces living in the present regardless of your past hurdles or future plans. It is being here now that's important. All there is ever is the now. Gestalt counseling hyper focuses on the present. Instead of discussing why something happened in the past, the counselor will encourage the client to re experience the moment and discuss how it feels to experience their feelings rather than talk about them. Next is principle of unfinished business. Unfinished business is the term used in Gestalt counseling to describe feelings and memories of past experiences that a person has repressed. Means something a person has to do which has not yet been done, worked, or completed, which can be manifested in unexpressed feelings in the form of grief, guilt, pain, anxiety, hatred, and resentment. Polster and Polster elucidate the unfinished business are those incomplete directions which seek completion that set on individuals' compulsive behavior, weariness, and oppressive energy. Unfinished business has been taken place due to failure in achieving career goal, failure in love relationships, or any other unfinished dream of an individual's life. Gestalt counseling helps clients work through their unfinished business and bring about its closure. Next is contact and resistance to contact. In Gestalt counseling, contact is necessary if change and growth are to occur. Effective contact means interacting with nature and with other people without losing one's sense of individuality. It is the continually renewed creative adjustment of individuals to their environment. Gestalt counselors talk about two functions of boundaries, to contact and to separate. Both are necessary and important to healthy functioning. Gestalt counselors also focus on interruptions, disturbances, and resistances to contact, which were developed as coping process but often end up preventing from experiencing the present in a full and a real way. Resistances are developed as a means of coping with life situations. They possess positive qualities as well as problematic ones. The next principle of Gestalt approach is energy and blocks to energy. In Gestalt counseling, special attention is given to where energy is located, how it is used, and how it can be blocked. Blocked energy is another form of defensive behavior. One of the tasks of the counselor is to help clients identify the ways in which they are blocking energy and transform this blocked energy into more adaptive behaviors. Clients can be encouraged to recognize how their resistance is being expressed in their body.
Next, we will discuss counselor goals and functions. Goals of Gestalt counselor. The basic goal of Gestalt counselor is attaining awareness and with it greater choice. Awareness includes knowing the environment, knowing oneself, accepting oneself, and being able to make contact. Increased and enriched awareness by itself is seen as curative.
With awareness, clients have the capacity to face and accept denied parts as well as to fully experience their subjectivity. They can become unified and whole. When clients stay with their awareness, important unfinished business will always emerge so that it can be dealt with in counseling. The Gestalt approach helps clients to note their own awareness process so that they can be responsible and selectively and discriminatingly make choices. Awareness emerges within the context of a genuine meeting between the client and counselor. Through a creative involvement in Gestalt process, clients will move towards increased awareness of themselves, gradually assume ownership of their experience as opposed to making others responsible for what they are thinking, feeling and doing. Develop skills and acquire values that will allow them to satisfy their needs without violating the rights of others. Become more aware of all of their senses, learn to accept responsibility for what they do, including accepting the consequences of their actions, and also be able to ask for and get help from others and to give to others. Counselor functions. Gestalt counselor notice what is in both the foreground and the background. The counselor's job is to encourage clients to attend to their sensory awareness in the present moment. The counselor functions as a guide and a catalyst, present experiments and shares observations. The basic work of counseling is done by the client. Stresses the counselor's job is to create a climate in which clients are likely to try out new ways of being. Gestalt counselors do not force change on clients through concentration. Instead, the work in the context of I, thou dialogue in a here and now framework. And an important function of Gestalt counselors is paying attention to clients' body language. Non-probable clues provide rich information as they often represent feelings of which the client is unaware. The counselor needs to be alert for gaps in attention and awareness and for incongruities between verbalization. Here are some examples of the aspects of language that Gestalt counselors might focus on. It talk. When client says it instead of I, they are using depersonalizing language. The counselor may ask them to substitute personal pronouns for impersonal ones so that they will assume an increased sense of responsibility. For example, a client says it is difficult to make friends. She could be asked to restate this by making an I statement. I have trouble making friends. Relationship between counselor and client. Gestalt practice involves person-to-person relationship between counselor and client. Counselor are responsible for the quality of their presence, for knowing themselves and the client, and for the remaining open to the client. They are also responsible for establishing and maintaining counseling atmosphere and maintaining that foster a spirit of work on the client part. The counselor's experiences, awareness and perceptions provide the background of the counseling process, and declined awareness and reaction constitute the foreground. It is important that counselors allow themselves to be affected by their clients and that they actively share their own present perceptions and experiences. Client experience in counseling. Gestalt counselors not only allow their clients to be who they are but also remain themselves and do not get lost in a role. They are willing to express their reactions and observations. They share their personal experience and stories in relevant and appropriate ways, and they do not manipulate clients. Further, They give feedback, allows client to develop awareness of what they are actually doing. The counselor must encounter client with honest and immediate reactions and explore with them their fears, catastrophic expectations, blockages, and resistances.
Gestalt counseling techniques. Gestalt counseling is practiced in the form of exercise and experiments. It can be administered in individual or group settings. In general, exercises are somewhat established practices in Gestalt counseling designed to arouse action, emotion, or goals from the client. The counselor and client can then examine the result of the exercise in order to increase awareness and help the person understand the here and now of the experience. In contrast to exercises, experiments arise throughout the development of the therapeutic process and therapeutic relationship. They are a core component of Gestalt counseling and allow client to understand different aspects of a conflict, experience, or mental health issue. Some of the techniques of Gestalt counseling include dream work, empty chair technique, two chair technique, exaggeration, body language. Locating emotions, creative activities, role play, confrontation, and I statements are also used as Gestalt counseling techniques. Dream work. The purpose of addressing dreams in Gestalt counseling is to bring dreams back to life and live them in the here and now. Each part is presumed to be a projection of the self. The client invents scripts for encounters between characters or parts. Dreams are rarely discussed theoretically in Gestalt theory, although dreams work occupies a large and, above all, a very valuable place in the practice of Gestalt counseling. In Gestalt counseling, we assume that dreams hold existential messages for us that we should learn to understand. Dreams are fragmented the same way our personality is, and many parts of our personality are neither interconnected nor do they work together. In dream work, counselors proceed by asking client to tell the dream in the first person, in the present, as if the dream is happening right now. As a second step, counselor turns the client into a stage director. As a third step, counselor focus on two dream characters who embody the main conflict. The client expresses in the present what his counterpart said to him beforehand in a role play, in a manner appropriate for his age, in the language that fits to him. The main feeling that has emerged is expressed appropriately for the situation and then discussed with the counselor. These steps aim to ensure that the client falls back into his or her sensory state of the dream as much as possible and that the right feel for recalling the dream is created. Empty chair technique. A key method used in Gestalt counseling is the empty chair technique. This simple approach is designed to allow client to work through interpersonal and internal conflict. It helps to see the situation from a different perspective and gain insight into one's own feeling and behaviors. Using this technique helps bring into the here and now of client present experiences. As you verbalize what's going on, the abstract becomes more concrete. The Gestalt counseling role play empty chair technique with self. The following counseling role play session is for education purpose only. The individuals in the following video are acting. Counselor asked client to sit facing an empty chair. In the chair, counselor asked client to picture a person with whom she is experiencing conflict, or she may picture a part of herself. Then she speaks to the empty chair and explain her feelings, thoughts, and understanding of the situation. Two-chair technique. The two-chair technique is similar to the empty chair technique. Both the empty chair and the two-chair techniques can be helpful in drawing out important perceptions, meanings, and other information that can help the client be more aware of their emotional experience and how they can start healing. Gestalt counseling role play two-chair technique with perfect part of self. The following counseling role play session is for education purpose only. The individuals in the following video are acting. In this video, the client is encouraged to have a dialogue with an empty chair positioned next to them. However, after speaking to the metaphorical person or part of self, the client has the chance to respond to themselves by taking up the role of the other person or self. The client will physically sit on the other chair and have a dialogue with themselves as if they are the other person or part. The client can go back and forth between the two chairs while the counselor makes observation and encourages meaningful dialogues. This can be useful for gaining perspective and awareness of other people's experiences. It can also help someone to come to decisions that were previously hard to make, as well as helping them to have better interpersonal conversation with the person they may have experienced conflict with. Exaggeration. In addition to giving body language a voice, a Gestalt counselor may inquire about the client's body language. If it is difficult for the client to find words to put to what is happening, they may be asked to exaggerate that motion or repeat it several times in a row or a period of time during the session to draw out some of their experience at that moment. In this way, the client and the counselor get a chance to process emotion and how the person might have learned to disconnect their emotional experiences with their physical experience. The exaggeration technique focuses on observation made by either the client or counselor when a subject is being discussed. If a physical trait such as bouncing one's leg, touching one's face, or avoiding eye contact is noticed, the counselor will encourage the client to exaggerate that behavior. Start counseling role play exaggeration technique. The following counseling role play session is for education purpose only. The individuals in the following video are acting. In the video, counselor asks the client to bounce her leg back and forth. After a while, counselor asks client how is she feeling about the same. She felt bit of an emotion and discussed it with the counselor. Counselor again asked client to clench her hand. This time, client felt bit of anger emotion. Counselor encouraged the client to exaggerate the behavior, increasing its place in the self-awareness. This practice will help client identify emotions attached to some of those behaviors, either physical or verbal, so they can better know themselves in the future and have a better grasp of their mental state in the present.
Body language. During a session, A Gestalt counselor will observe the client's body language and movement, such as tapping their foot, wringing their hands, or making a certain facial expression. The counselor is likely to mention their observation of this and ask what is happening for the person at that moment. Incorporating language, the Gestalt counselor may even ask the client to give their foot, hands, or facial expression a voice and speak from that place. Locating emotions. Often, a lot of emotions can be brought up during Gestalt counseling. When a client talks about an emotion, the counselor may ask them where they feel that emotion in their body. For example, they may represent the emotion as a heavy or tight feeling in the chest, a lump in the throat, or tension in the shoulders. Being able to do this brings awareness to emotions and helps the client to stay present and process their emotions effectively. Through Gestalt counseling, clients learn to discover emotions that may have been pushed down or masked by other feelings. Through bringing them to the surface, the client can learn to accept and trust their emotions. Creative activities. Other activities such as painting, drawing, and sculpting can also be used to help clients gain awareness, stay present, and learn how to process the moment. Essentially, any method that can be offered to the client other than traditionally sitting still and talking can prove helpful in increasing self-awareness, awareness of experiences, and being the process of healing. Role playing. Role playing is a common practice in this type of counseling, as it is a more active means of bringing the past into the present. Role playing certain scenes or past experiences of a patient and then discussing how that behavior or memory affects their emotions in the present can provide great insight into what progress has been made and where someone's emotional state currently stands. Confrontation. Confrontation was a key technique in the early days of Gestalt counseling, but is not used as much in recent times. When something comes up that the counselor believes requires confrontations, such as when some sort of change is apparent but the person cannot quite get there, the counselor would become confrontational. While this can be effective for some, others may find this technique too aggressive. Clients may be put off by the confrontational manner of the counselor, and so it is not used as often nowadays. I statements. The language a client uses and their tone are important in Gestalt counseling. As clients are encouraged to and learn to accept responsibility, they learn to use language that reflects personal ownership rather than focusing on others and outside experiences. Clients are encouraged to use I statements to learn personal responsibility. For instance, instead of saying it made me feel angry, they could say I feel angry. Now, let's talk about the strengths of Gestalt counseling.
Gestalt counseling is a comprehensive counseling method that gives long lasting benefits to an individual's mind, emotions, body, and spirits. This counseling covers all aspects of the client's life. It looks at the clients as a whole. Gestalt counseling provides an opportunity for the client to acknowledge their experience. The Gestalt approaches focus on experience in terms of a person's emotions, perception, behavior, body sensation, ideas, and memories. Gestalt counseling increases self awareness. It aims to bring people into awareness of the belief so that they can learn to deal with their problems and its effects. Here, counselors ask what and how instead of why because they want to promote present awareness. Becoming aware means making connections with emotions and physical needs. Gestalt counseling increases ability to deal and cope with stressful situations. The most important part of Gestalt counseling is
It works with past by making it relevant to the present, and it helps the client to make peace with the past and to accept it. Gestalt counseling enhances the ability to live in the present. This counseling enables individuals to appreciate past experiences and how they influence their present thoughts and behavior by being conscious of internal factors that influence their present lives. At last, it can be said that Gestalt counseling approach focuses more on here and now experience of the client. Gestalt counseling is equal or greater than other counseling in treating various disorders. Gestalt counseling has a beneficial impact on personality disorders, and the effects of counseling are stable.
Now, let's try to understand the applications of group counseling. Group counseling is a form of psychotherapy that involves one or more mental health practitioners who deliver psychotherapy towards several individuals in each of the sessions. Group counseling can reduce wait times and give more people access to reliable mental health care. Some people can also attend individual counseling sessions in addition to group counseling, while others exclusively use group counseling. Some other examples of conditions a group counseling may focus on do include the following: phobias, depression, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder ADHD, substance use disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, post traumatic stress disorder, panic disorder. Benefits: group counseling may provide a safe place for people to share their feelings and exploring the nature of their mental health condition, a place to receive support from and then give support to others who are experiencing similar difficulties. Exposure towards new behaviors, thoughts, and beliefs that may shift people's perspectives. A place where people do feel that they are not alone. Absorbing positive support systems. A more affordable and cost effective alternative towards one on one therapy sessions. Types of group counseling. First, psychoeducational group. Second, skill development groups. Third, cognitive behavioral groups. Fourth, support groups. 5. Interpersonal processes groups. Psychoeducational groups. Psychoeducational group counseling does focus on educating members about their conditions and providing them with new coping strategies. These groups usually focus on a specific condition, such as substance use disorder, anxiety, or even phobias. Skills development groups. Skills development groups focus on introducing and improving the skills that the members need to cope with while dealing with certain mental health conditions. These groups may even incorporate aspects of psychoeducational groups. Still, the overall goal involves strengthening the very members through behavioral and cognitive resources to help them make positive choices and avoid harmful situations. Cognitive behavioral groups. Cognitive behavioral group counseling does attempt to restructure the beliefs a person has that led to negative or harmful behaviors. For example, cognitive behavioral group focus on substance use disorder by beginning to identify situations and environments that do trigger the addictive behavior. With this understanding, members do develop management strategies that support reduced use. Support groups. Support groups can even help people cope with significant life changes, such as the loss of a loved one. In the support groups, the members do give and even receive unconditional acceptance. The group also encourages its members to totally reflect and review their personal beliefs and behaviors. Interpersonal processes groups. The interpersonal processes groups model does use the psychodynamic approach to promote positive change. Psychodynamics is indeed a school of psychology that views a person's early life experiences and subconscious beliefs and feelings to be the foundation of their personality and behaviors. Interpersonal process groups do focus on interpersonal group dynamics and less on individual psychology.
Although Gestalt therapy has many strengths, yet it has few limitations too. There has been some controversy in regards to Gestalt therapy. However, this theory is not free from various criticism. The first criticism that has been noticed in Gestalt therapy is that it is too descriptive in nature. The therapy process begins with the contact between the counselor and the client. Assessment is unique because it consists of various psychodynamic treatments. Instead of offering explanations and models, it focuses on the emotions and sensations of the client, which is built into the framework of therapy. Gestalt therapy has been criticized for investigating subjective experiences like perception. This can initiate the client's imagination or fantasy world as long as they are interacting and expressing their needs to the counselor. Although it is a spontaneous approach, the mood of the treatment may not be suitable for all the clients and even too aggressive for some. There is also a controversial lack of monitoring during the interaction. Just qualitative description is another limitation of Gestalt therapy. Gestalt psychologists rejected such a solution on the ground that it adopted a questionable postulate about the demands of scientific investigation. An approach that fails to do justice to the most obvious facts of experience cannot be scientifically correct. Another limitation of Gestalt therapy is the temptation for novice counselors or therapists to use such Gestalt techniques, that is to say, as empty chair, top dog underdog, figure ground, and locating feelings without sufficient practitioner training. However, these processes alone can be of little value in helping the client. In addition, the intense emotional responses that some Gestalt experiments evoke can be harmful to the client if misused or abused by an inexperienced counselor or therapist. Other criticism stem from counselors who use Gestalt therapy and integrate other techniques into a hybrid form of counseling that does not fit under the Gestalt theoretical umbrella. Sometimes these other techniques clash with Gestalt theory and are ineffectual. Some practitioners believe the client's cognitive process is important in counseling or psychotherapy work, yet many Gestaltists tend to de emphasize cognition, focusing more on feeling. In order to conclude, it can be said that Gestalt therapy focuses on the integration between the whole person and his or her environment. This therapy sees a healthy individual as being someone who has awareness in his or her life and lives in the here and now rather than focusing on past or future. Gestalt therapy has a number of successful techniques that are applicable in therapy today and may be utilized across a broad spectrum of emotional issues. Hope we have presented an overview of Gestalt therapy before you all. Thank you very much for listening to us. We would be blessed to have feedback or suggestions from your side.